uh, present the case in the panel discussion. Apatile looks deceptive RD. So it's a 27-year-old male with no comorbidities, history of tobacco chewing. Examination, there was ascending colon wall thickening with multiple enlarged lymph nodes. CCT was done, which showed a circumferential enhancing thickening in the proximal jejunum, maximum thickness of 1.9 centimeter with enlarged mesenteric nodes, multiple hypotense lesions in both lobes of the liver. And ultrasound guided biopsy was advised, which showed a linear course of tissues with tumor cells arranged in nesting and sheeting pattern. The cells were epithelioid mostly, somewhat with plasmacytoid morphology, round to oval nuclei, mostly monomorphic, post-chromatin, inconspicuous nucleoli, and moderate amount of cytoplasm. Mitosis was not brisk. It was initially pan-CK was put, so was negative. We had a DD of neuroendocrine tumor, but synapto and chromo were negative. The only positive markers was CD56. KI showed around 20%. So we have a tumor which was negative for pan-CK, which was negative for LCA, negative for chromo and synapto, negative for CKID, taking into consideration it could have been epithelioid gist. Only positive marker was CD56. The any impression was given as a neuroendocrine tumor, probably metastatic. And since the KI was 20%, it was deemed to be grade 2. With this, acidic fluid was also tapped, but it was negative, and a jejunal segmentectomy was carried out. We received a tumor, a bulky tumor with So we received a tumor which was mainly submucosal in location. And on histomorphology, we could see that the mucosa was mostly spared. It was a submucosal tumor. And it showed a pseudopapillary pattern. It had pseudopapillary stalks with round to oval nuclei, pretty monomorphic with vesicular chromatin, somewhat conspicuous nucleoli, and moderate amount of cytoplasm, somewhat plasmacytoid morphology. And at some places, it showed osteoclastic type giant cells. And at some places, the cells showed eosinophilic deposits in the cytoplasm. So with this, and at some places, there was a spinduloid morphology as well. So predominantly, it was epithelioid tumor with somewhat spinduloid morphology at places. So a DD of GIST was again reconsidered. Neuroendocrine tumor could be a melanoma, could it be a synovial sarcoma with epithelioid morphology? Because of the eosinophilic deposits in the cytoplasm, could it be a granular cell tumor? IST was resorted to. Pan-CK was negative, which was negative on the biopsy as well. The positive marker was S100, which was diffusely and strongly positive. So could it be a melanoma? SOX10 was positive. 99 was put, taking into consideration, could it be a round cell tumor? CD99 was still diffuse positive and strong and membranous. HME40, however, was negative. CKID and DOG1 both were negative. So GIST is almost ruled out. Synapto, chromo, both were negative, as was seen on the biopsy. So what are we looking at? So it's positive for S100, SOX10, both diffuse, CD99 positive, else almost all other relevant markers were negative. So what is in and what is out? Is melanoma still in? So after quite, searching in the literature and, looking at the morphology up and about, the final impression which we received or which we rendered was gastrointestinal neuroectodermal tumor. And for confirmation, EWSR1 rearrangement was advised, since it's a very rare tumor. And lo and behold, the EWSR1 was clearly, the rearrangement was detected. It showed positivity in most of the cells. Split signals were there. Molecular analysis was taken up, but the RT-PCR for EWS Fly1 fusion was negative. Ewing's was ruled out. But the point here is molecular was negative, but the fish was positive. So it has EWSR1 gene rearrangement, but the fusion was not with Fly1. Treatment post-surgery was dealt with cisplatin and etoposide for 6 cycles. FDIPSI done for PET-CT done for follow-up was not very good. It favored disease progression. So coming to malignant GNET, or the other terminology is gastrointestinal CCS, clear cell sarcoma. So they are very rare tumors, near about only 100 cases described in the literature. It's a tumor in sarcoma involving EWSR1, but not with a fusion, which usually is seen in Ewing sarcoma and other family of tumors, usually with ATF1 and CRB1. It has been described in the 5th edition of WHO. Common locations are small intestine, stomach, and colon. It has been suggested that these arise from a gastrointestinal neuroectodermal precursor cell that has lost the potential to differentiate along the melanocytic lineage. The morphology which has been described is quite typical with the case in study. Immunohistochemistry was also typical, except that synaptophysin can be positive, which was negative in our case. The melanocytic markers were negative. S100 and SOX10 are typically positive. So whether to call it a clear cell sarcoma of the GIT or a GNET depends on whether there is expression of the melan-A, HMB45 or MITAX. If it is there, you call it CCS. If not there, you call it GNET, which is mainly a malignant tumor. The primary DD is melanoma, but that was ruled out based on EWS1 gene rearrangement. The essential diagnostic criteria are the morphology and positive for S100 and SOX10 with EWS1 fusion rearrangement and fusion with ATF and CRB1. So these are the fusion partners which have been described in the study by Candler, and it describes the EWS1 gene rearrangement, which is present in almost all cases, but the fusion partners vary, namely the predominant partners say ATF and CRB1. Thank you.